My name is Denise Langford. Brother Dennis, he used to come to our church and preach when he was singing with his mother, way before Tiffany days. And I remember every single woman in the church wanted to date him, as long as I remember. Tiffany had claims on him, and she's the only one that ever could catch his attention. He fell hard for Tiffany. But anyway, I am privileged to be able to speak here tonight. Thank you so much for inviting me. When Tiffany, she emailed me and asked me to come and speak, and honestly, I'm not a speaker, so I was like, we'll see about this. But I told the Lord a long time ago, God, if you give me the opportunity with everything you've done, I can't but help give you the praise and the glory for everything you've done. You deserve that praise, whether I feel like I'm worthy or able to give it or not. You deserve the praise, so that's why I'm here, because he deserves all the glory. When Randy and we grew up in the same church, I used to tease him that he was been my pastor since I was like in 4th grade. When he was 16 years old, he was the children's church pastor at our church, and I was in 4th grade, and I sang in a children's quartet. So literally, we'd get up and sing. There was 4 of us, and I would sit behind him, and he'd get up and preach. So we grew up in the same church. I married him when I was 19 years old. Basically, I married into ministry with him. He was a youth pastor at Northside Baptist Church in Mesquite with Brother Orby Flatt. We pastored as youth pastors for 2.5 years. And then we went to Greenville, Texas, and pastored Menor Heights Baptist Church for about 9.5 years. And then we came back to Duncanville and pastored Calvary Baptist, which was renamed Thorntree Baptist, for 12.5 years. So I've been in ministry for a long, long time. Love it. Loved being a pastor's wife. Through those 25 years, God gave me 5 awesome children. I have 4 boys and a girl. My daughter Anna's with me tonight. And I appreciate her coming, because if I get tired on the way home, she's going to help me drive. So I loved it. You know, I had a wonderful experience with God's people. This here, you know, I grew up doing this. I was saved as a young girl myself. And, you know, our church was always doing this. So this is all I've ever known, but it's been a long, long time. It's been at least 7 years since I've done anything like this. So it's really been fun so far getting to experience this again. But 2004, our church was going to go on a missions trip. Jeremy, my youngest, he was 3. He's about to turn 4, so I wasn't able to go with my 5 kids. And for some reason, Randy was preaching a series at our church on spiritual warfare. Our church was thriving. It was cram-packed. We had families coming an hour away to come to our church because God was really moving in our congregation at the time. But I told Randy, I said, you know, I don't want you to go on this missions trip. I just had this bad feeling about it. And, you know, I've never asked him not to go on something like that. But I said, Randy, you're tired. You know, you're starting to get burned out through all these years. He's been preaching since he was 16. And I just had a bad feeling about it. But he went ahead and went on the missions trip. And when he came back a different person. But unfortunately not in a way that I had expected. While he was on the missions trip, he had become emotionally involved with one of the ladies in our church. Now, their family they were Wycliffe missionaries, and they were our best friends. It was actually kind of exciting because they were, you know, we could identify with them. They were in ministry, we were in ministry, so our kids were all the same age. They hung out, they did everything together. Anna was best friends with their 4 daughters. So when he came back, he'd become emotionally involved with her, but that was in July. Well, by September, he and this lady had just went ahead and decided to go into a full-blown affair. And then by December, well, once he made that choice, we resigned our church instantaneously. The congregation had no idea what had happened. I mean, we'd just come off a mission trip. Boom, he gets up one Sunday, resigns. We just finished this spiritual warfare series he was in. We were in a new building program. Church was packed, and they just sat there stunned. He got up one Sunday and said, officially, as of today, I'm resigning as pastor of this church. We walked out the door and never saw those people again. It was devastating. Well, the missionary family, they went to the Wycliffe Mission Board, told them what happened. They said, you need to get out of Dodge. So they packed their bags with their kids and they moved to Michigan by December. So this happened July, September, December, they were gone. I sat there and I said, okay, God, maybe maybe you're going to work this all out for good. And, being a pastor's wife can be really hard. Being in ministry can be really hard. I thought, okay, God, you're going to just regroup here, and you'll work this out for good. We'll go to counseling. We'll get this thing straightened out, and have maybe even a better ministry later on that's even better than what we've experienced for these first 25 years. The problem was Randy, he walked around. Okay, first of all, I want to say, a lot of times when you go into a situation like this, the woman or the other spouse, whoever's experienced this, will say, I married the wrong person. I should have never done this. What was I thinking? I never could come to terms with that. I said, God, I had 25 years of being with God's people. It was awesome. 5 amazing children out of this. I could not say I married the wrong person. I didn't feel that way. I've known him since I was 11 years old. I absolutely adored Randy. He was just my hero. I absolutely adored him. I loved listening to him preach. He's an amazing, gifted speaker. I couldn't feel that way. So what I came to terms with is I didn't marry the wrong person. I married the right person who went wrong. And that's hard to accept, because when you see somebody that you love so much, just like the father with the prodigal son, he would wait for his son to come back and repent. Well, that's what I was hoping for. But so during this time, that's what I thought was going to happen, and we were counseling with some pastors. We know a ton of pastor friends. But he was miserable. First of all, he'd lost his church, and he absolutely, loved pastoring. So he was miserable, but he would walk around weeping and wailing for this other woman. And unbeknownst to me, 6 months later, he reinitiated contact with her, and they started up all back over again. But this time, it became a long-distance affair that lasted for 7 years. He just now married this woman this August. It's taken this long for closure for me. But the first 2 years, from 04 to 06, I lived with him while he was involved with her underneath my nose all the time. There would be times when I'd get up in the middle, I get up in the morning, and he would just pick up the phone. How are you doing? He became perky and excited again because they had initiated, so he was happy again. But I was shutting down. Now see, the thing is, I didn't tell my parents, I didn't tell my siblings, I told nobody. Because 1, I wasn't thinking clearly. 2, I thought, well, love covers a multitude of sins. I'm thinking God's going to bring repentance into his life and remorse, and I didn't want him to be able to come to family get-togethers and my parents look down on him. So I was trying to protect him and my kids, so I bore this by myself. I remember this lady in my church, well, she wasn't in our church anymore, but she called me up right after we had resigned, and she said, Denise, she was crying. She said, I heard Brother Randy resigned the church. I said, yeah, he did. We did. And she wanted me to just start going into all these details. Well, I couldn't. I was shut down. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was afraid. And her comment to me was, well, I can see all these years of ministry have really hardened your heart, haven't they? And then I said, you know what, Lord, I can't do this. I can't bring in the church and deal with all of their maybe misunderstandings of what have happened, answer all their questions, wonder what's going to happen to my kids. I can't do all this. So I just went into a cave and I shut down. I was more depressed than I've ever been in my life. I felt rejected, abandoned, unloved. I was so depressed. Like she was saying, if I could go to sleep, my mind and my heart could be at rest. But when I woke up, I had to deal with the pain again. And my heart hurt so much, I thought it was going to literally, I could feel the pain physically. And I thought, that I was going to have a breakdown. So finally, after 2 years of leaving this alone, My parents called me up one day, my dad, and he said, Denise, we're going to bring a couch over for you. I said, okay, Dad. So the kids were all at Awana's. Randy was gone doing something. And my parents came over. And I said to my dad, I said, Dad, if you had something in your life that if you disclosed it, and you knew there was nothing you could do to change the situation, but by disclosing it to somebody else, it would bring nothing but pain to them, would you tell them? You see, that was another reason why I didn't tell my parents. I did not want them to hurt the way I was hurting. I wanted to spare them and anybody else that cared about the pain that I was feeling. I'm not saying that was clear thinking. That's just how I felt at the time. And so my dad, he was thinking along the terms of when his mother, my grandmother's 99 years old, one of her children died. They told her, took her to the funeral, and it devastated her. Well, then another son died, and they were debating whether to tell her and to put her through that pain. So my dad's answer to me was, no, Denise, I don't think I would. He said, that's a very hard question you've asked, but I don't think I would. So I decided I'm not going to tell him because I'm not going to hurt him. And then he said to me, but I think I know what this is about. I said, no, Dad, you don't. It's not about the kids. It's nothing like that. And then he got afraid because, see, I had lost a ton of weight. I looked horrible. I felt horrible. I was under so much stress. And he said, Denise, are you sick? Have you been diagnosed with a disease or something I don't know about? And then he got afraid. So I told him. I told my parents. I started crying, and I told them what had happened for 2 years. We hugged and we cried, and he started praying for me, and he said, Denise, it's going to be okay. And see, there was lots of times when I said, God, I wish I could tell my dad because I know he would come in and he would take care of me and he would protect me. But I was afraid to tell him. So he did. He stepped in and he started cooking for me. I couldn't cook. I couldn't get out of bed. And he came in, and I would go to his house every Sunday with the kids, and he'd cook for me and the kids. And then he called Randy up because we were still living together. And he said, Randy, what are your intentions with my daughter? And he wrote him a letter, and he told my parents, he said, I'm sorry for the pain I've caused you and Denise, but I don't love her. I'm very much in love with this other person, and I can't get over her. So my dad, he said, Denise, you can't stay there. You cannot stay in this situation. It's not healthy for you. So he asked Randy to leave, and he did.